Hi guys, and welcome back from Carly at the Herbothecary. Really good to see you guys again. If you're new to the channel or like the videos, please show your support by hitting like and subscribe down below. So it's that time of year again here at the Herbothecary. We are desperately trying to make the best of the last of the sunshine and praying that the rest of our vegetables still have time to come to fruition or ripen properly before autumn is upon us. We eat so much fresh food in this house, and this time of year is all about getting what you can before everything dies back and saving it for the hungry gap over winter. Now, as most foragers know, this time of year, again, is a race between the berries and things going bad because of the hot weather we've had, and getting as much as you can before the critters get them, but still obviously leaving enough for them. So this is our local little woodland, and we found some sloe berries. We also found a few hazelnuts that the squiggles haven't got yet, and we'll be making and preserving some hazelnut butter out of these to keep over the season. Obviously still leaving some for the squiggles. Now some of these are still quite green, but every now and again you find some that have already started to ripen properly, and those ones just pop out of the shell. The sea of chamomile that I've been harvesting from all season, I am going to harvest some of that and dry that for over winter, so we have some excess tea. Well, not excess tea because it all gets drunk, and the rest we will be preserving. This morning I was preserving some of our chili harvest and some of our tomatoes in brine, and I've just added some herbs and some garlic in with those. We do like the chilies when they're green, just checking the seals on those. We are going to let the other ones that are on the bush ripen properly. And although I normally make tomato sauce, I do like having some whole tomatoes to pop into pasta salads and on pizzas. Now I do use a very simple brine recipe that I've been using for a while, and it's about 1.5 liters of pure white vinegar. Don't use homemade apple cider vinegar. 750 mils of pre-boiled water that I dissolve 6 tablespoons of. We use Himalayan sea salt. Do not use salt with a caking agent. And once the brine is cooled, we just add all the ingredients to the jar, making sure that they're submerged, and pop it in our water bath canning, which I just use an old big pot, as I've never seen the need to invest in a proper water bath canner. We've also been preserving some of our herbs, so we've got our sage and our curry plants. But for now, we're going to be preserving some of those plums and blackberries that we got. Now, these were a little overripe as I only got to them late. So I've got some of the ones that were still quite firm in the jar on the left, as I'll be putting them in a syrup just on their own for fruit salads. And I've got about 3 cups left over of those, the ones that were quite soft. So I'm just going to mush those down, as it'll make it easier for me to remove the peels and things afterwards. My girls won't really eat it if the peels are in, but it smells so yummy. Now, I forgot to film me adding the lemon juice to it. Now I add about 25 mils of lemon juice just to increase the acidity, although these plums are already quite acidic. And I only added about ½ cup of water, as they were already quite juicy. And I've well washed my blackberries, because we've already made blackberry jam and I want to preserve these whole in syrup as well, as these ones are still quite nice and firm. Now, it is important to have all your equipment ready when you start this process. So I've got my jars simmering away. I haven't got my water boiling yet. I just want to keep the jars warm so that they're clean and they don't crack when I put the hot plum jam in. So like I said, I've got about 3 cups, but it's reduced down now. So to this I am adding a half cup of brown sugar. Again, they're very, very sweet. I don't need them to be too sweet, but I do want the sugar in there to make the jam and to help preserve it. So I'm just going to mix in that 1/4 cup and wait till that's all melted. Obviously, you can do this process after you've decanted it and pulled out all of the lumpy bits and the skins, but I've never had a problem just doing it at this stage. I then want to heat it up so that it comes to a boil for at least 5 minutes. So while that's doing its thing, I'm going to grab my tongs and carefully grab one of these jars. And I do want to empty all the hot water out. As my blackberries haven't actually been cooked, I'm going to let that jar cool for a little while before I pop all my blackberries in there. And I will take out any that aren't looking quite as good as the others. Now I will be adding the syrup to this, and the syrup will be quite warm, so I don't want the jar to cool down too much. So I'll just pop them aside for a few minutes while I get working on the syrup. Now again, with the syrup, we don't like it too sweet. My daughter is diabetic, and obviously we do deal with that, but she does like a fruit cocktail in syrup, so I'm going to make a light syrup. So to half a cup of brown sugar, I'll be adding approximately 2 cups of hot water. I am doing 2 jars and they're 300 ml jars, so I need about 600 ml of syrup, but remember that obviously the fruit will be taking up some space. So that's all melted in now, and I'm just going to pop that aside and give my plum sauce, plum jam, a good stir. Make sure that all that sugar is incorporated. Don't forget, I did add 25 ml of lemon juice to increase the acidity. And once that's reached a nice rolling ball and stayed that way for at least 5 minutes, it's time to grab a fresh jar and decant it. But this hob is still quite hot, and rather than move my camera, I just decided to put this tray over it, as I should only be doing, or this rack rather, as I should only be over it for a few seconds at most while I just decant it in. Now I've got my jarring sieve, which is absolutely great. I just got this new one for my birthday, as I have misplaced my old one. So just over a mesh sieve, I'm just going to pour that in, and I'm going to allow it to drip for a little while. I don't want the liquid to cool down too much, as I will be putting it back into the hot water to seal those jars. So I'll pop that aside for a minute and let that drip until I come back and, using my spoon, just mush everything through. So now to add the syrup to our blackberries. And I'm just ladling that in slowly until all the berries are covered. Now we do want the berries about 1/2 inch from the top. So normally I just leave it just before the top starts. So we're going to put our top on, and we're just finger tightening that lid, as that lid's only purpose is to keep the top in place while it goes into the water bath, the canning bath. But I will wait till I've got everything ready so that I can, get the other jars out and bring it to a boil. So I'm just going to do the same with my jam, or with my plum jam, and we'll pop that aside. Again, just finger tight. You don't want to tighten them completely. You do want it to hold the top in place, but you also want to be able to take it off afterwards. this purpose not only gives you the extra jars, but if that seal does break, if you've got the top on, or the twisty top on, it will hold it back in place and it could reseal, or you wouldn't know that the seal had popped as it was holding it in place. But if it does pop and reseal, it does give it chance for bacteria to get in and your product to go off. So while I'm just getting the rest of my jars out, I can now bring my pot to a boil. To my next jar, I'm just going to add those whole plums that I had that we're going to be using for fruit salad, and I will top that up with my syrup mixture. And again, finger tighten that lid on. Now these lids have actually been sat in a jar of warm or hot water that is obviously cooled a bit to keep them clean. And I'll just pop that aside. Now my rack I pop into the bottom of my pan. This keeps the jars slightly off the bottom, helps avoid breaking, and I find that if you just pop them straight on, a water bubble will form underneath and they'll rattle, which will also help them to break. And as I said, I don't go for the special water bath canners or anything like that. I just make sure that there's an inch above the top of the cans and leave that. We are actually at sea level, so I let mine boil for around 30 minutes. And while that's doing its thing, I'll wait for the other hob rings to cool down so I can clear up the mess. Don't make as much mess as me. And I thought that I would use some of those elderberries that we found, just a few of them, because I will be drying the others, and my girls pop that on muesli and other cereals, but I'm going to pop a few in here. And I thought that I would make a slowberry vodka that can sit on the shelf for a few months until Christmas time, and I sometimes bottle these up and give them away as gifts. Remember to remove all the berries from the twigs and the stems, as unlike the berries and the flowers, they are not edible. In fact, they will make you quite sick. So I'm going to pop some of these sloe berries in there as well. Add half a cup of sugar, or just enough to cover the berries. See, I normally find half a cup is fine in this jar, and this is a well-sealing jar. And I'm just going to top that up with, it's just a cheap bottle of vodka, literally the cheapest one they had. And I'm just going to top that up, making sure that all those berries are covered. I'll then seal this and shake it once to twice a day to make sure that all that sugar incorporates. And I'll pop that on the shelf for, well, till Christmas time. So about 3 months. And then we had these huge apples gifted to us by my neighbor, so in our next video we will be turning them into homemade apple cider vinegar, and we will be processing that large basket of hazelnuts and turning the ones that are already ready into gorgeous creamy nut butter, which my daughter loves, and hopefully preserving any leftovers if we have any leftovers. We have a big announcement here at the Herbothecary. Last week we released our first ebook, Raiding Nature's Medicine Chest, 8 plant-based products that every medicine cabinet should have. We will be including a bites and stings cream, an antifungal, an antiviral, a sleep aid. There's lots of goodies in there, even a few freebies and recipes on how to process them. You can order these books from either or by emailing us at herbothecarynaturalhealth@gmail.com, or you can visit us on our Facebook page, which is Natural Health at Home at the Herbothecary, and I will pop those details in the description box below. Thank you guys for all your support and all your requests for this ebook. I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing my knowledge with you over the last 5 years, and the support and encouragement to get this book out. It is the first of two that I have planned. The second one is Raiding Nature's Pantry, and that will be some foraged meals. We'll add in a stir fry, an awesome nettle stew. Hope you guys are up for it. The books will be $1.49 each, or a discount for two. Again, thank you guys for coming back to the Herbothecary. It was great to see you again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.